All right, here we are. We are live. Welcome, everybody. I am here with my friend and colleague, Catherine Justice, and we will hopefully be joined shortly by Marita Greenidge. We're going to give her just a moment. She's having some technical difficulties. So I figured right now what we could do is start with a little centering just to get us all calm and focused. Sit tall in your seat. Lengthen your spine, relax shoulders. Take a cleansing breath in, pausing at the top of your inhale, and letting it out in a big exhale. And if you closed your eyes, you can open them just for a moment. We're going to take a mudra here, Vajra mudra. Curl your ring finger, your middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger in towards your palm and extend your index finger, and then bring the tip of your thumbnail just on the inside of your middle fingernail. And you can do that with both hands here. This is also known as Thunderbolt Mudra, for cultivating your personal and spiritual power. Let us not hide our true power under a cloak of smallness or unworthiness. Everyone is an equal in this divine strength. We'll hold just for another breath or two. And as you complete your second exhale, release your hands into your lap. You can wiggle your, excuse me, wiggle your fingers to release any tension in your hands. All right. So I am Kelly Froyo. I am a CIAYT, and I'm also IAYT's membership manager. And I'm joining you from Tacoma, Washington, as I mentioned, with my colleague at IAYT, Dr. Catherine Justice. Catherine is a member of the SYR Scientific Committee. She's also the associate editor of the International Journal of Yoga Therapy. And today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Symposium on Yoga Research that is going to be held October 14th through 16th at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. SYR is the West's foremost yoga research conference. It's held annually in the fall, showcasing some of the best new research, offering participants an opportunity to interact with other scientists, experts, and professionals in the field. This is a single-track academic research meeting. And this year, we're going to have keynote presentations by Dr. Alyssa Appel, Dr. Jack Feldman, and Dr. Robert Saper, along with additional invited oral presentations from other senior researchers. SYR also has the interactive poster sessions where attendees can meet and mingle and discuss their work with other researchers. And you can find information and register at iayt.org under the Conferences tab. And an exciting aspect about this year's conference is that you can attend live in person. You can join the live stream online, or you can watch on demand at your own pace after the conference. So that is something that is exclusively new for 2024, and we hope will increase access to people wanting to participate and learn from SYR. So, Catherine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your special guest who's in your lab, and give us a brief history of your experience with SYR?
Sure. So the most important thing is this little guy who's our new kitten in our family. He's been with us for 2 weeks, and he was born July 15th, so he's like a little over 2 months old. And his name is Professor Taco Einstein, so he's very distinguished. Um, and so he wanted to make an appearance. But for my own experience with SYR, so like you said, I'm the associate editor for IJYT, but I have been coming to the Symposium on Yoga Research before I held that role. I should have thought about this beforehand of what year it was the first time I went. So the first SYR I attended was the one year that we did the combined sitar SYR. It was not at Kripalu. It was
in Boston, I think.
yeah, it was just outside of Boston.
Newton,
Yeah.
Mass.
So I think it was maybe like 2017, 2016. I don't
Yeah,
know. I can't
maybe
remember. Maybe even further back than that.
2014.
2014, that's probably it. Way back when. Hello.
Way back, 10 years,
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah. So that was the first time I went, and I presented a poster. It was my very first time presenting a scientific poster, like very first real scientific conference before. So it was like kind of a game changer for me of how much I enjoyed just listening to other scientists talking, learning from other people's posters, like walking around, seeing the posters. It was really unforgettable, like the first time that you do that and are around this sort of academic and yet spiritual community. It's a cool mix. And so then I've attended one other time when it was at Kripalu before I became associate editor, and then I've been there for every year since 2020. So that's my history with the symposium.
Nice. And this year you are offering a presentation focusing on the power of storytelling for effective grant writing. Could you give us an overview of this presentation and explain why storytelling is such a powerful tool in this context?
Yeah. So this is a topic that I've actually wanted to speak on for a while. It's been kind of brewing in my head because my own career path has taken kind of very atypical twists and turns. So my professional career started in the performing arts, and that's where my first career that I had. And then yoga came next, and then physical therapy came next, and then kind of integrative health came after that. And
Wow.
so with this origin in the world of the theater, like I, rather than thinking of this as like, oh, that was like a different career or something like that, I've always thought of it as like each of my career paths really is present within all of them. And the thing from my theater training that I feel like brings me the most, that I use the most in all aspects of my professional life is this idea of storytelling. And it's particularly effective when writing grants, but it's also effective with writing research papers. It's effective when giving presentations. It's effective when working one-on-one with clients and with patients. And it's an important part of trauma-informed care. Like it's all these things. Storytelling is actually really, really important. Understanding your own story, knowing how to communicate it, knowing how to listen and pick up things from other people's stories. So in the context of grant writing, it's very goal oriented, though. It's like you want that money, like you want to. And so there's some specifics about how you do storytelling in that with that kind of outcome that you want to get out of it. And so that's what the presentation is going to be about how you use sort of classic storytelling elements in a way to make your grants more effective, more fun to read, and more engaging, and hopefully more successful.
Yeah, very interesting. It's like, you're putting putting context behind your ask, I guess, and making it relatable and hooking the personal side in to get your funding.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, what are some key elements of storytelling that researchers and yoga therapists can incorporate into their grant applications?
So, one of the things that I think is really essential is kind of having a consistent, like a through line. And whether that through line is your, your objective or the kind of the proposal, like the heart of the proposal that you're putting through, or whether that through line is the population that you're trying to reach or the good that you're trying to do in the world, or whether the through line is a metaphor that you're using, but having like one kind of hook that you can guide the reader through. So an example of it, one of the successful grant applications that I worked on as a team. So it was not just me, it was a team of us writing it. And in fact, the best part of it that I want to talk about came from my boss. It was her idea, not mine. But we have a program that we call Heels on Wheels, which is about bringing integrative care directly to communities in need. And but because she came up with this amazing name, Heels on Wheels, what her and I decided as we started writing the grant was that that was going to be our through line, was the food metaphor. So we
Mm,
conceived of the whole program around food metaphors. So we have appetizers, we have a kitchen, we have a full meal, and we have like these different um, aspects. And it really, I think, helped in the review process when the feedback that we got from reviewers when we got funded was one that the story that we told was very clear. People
mhm.
really understood the project because we had this really clear through line of this metaphor of food, which had nothing to do. I mean, it had a little to do with the intervention. There is some kind of culinary medicine that went into the program, but it wasn't the heart of the program, but it was that metaphor that really helped people read and understand what we were asking.
And do you think that that kind of unique aspect that you took the food metaphor and wove it throughout your grant proposal, that do you think that that made a significant difference in securing the grants?
Oh, definitely. It did. Like the review panel because we had to do an interview as part of the review process. And so when we were doing the interview, several of the reviewers mentioned that they appreciated that about the application, about the program, that it was just like, they said it was easy to read, that we really understood what you wanted, and that the metaphor was what made it easy to read, what made it helpful. It's like,
Mhm.
instead of having to explain something a million times, you call it an appetizer. You explain it once, and then everyone remembers an appetizer. They remember what it is because it's so clearly laid out in the story, in the metaphor.
Mhm. What do you see common mistakes researchers or grant writers make when they're drafting proposals? Is there anything that really sticks out to you?
You know, um, a couple. Like one mistake, which is less about the storytelling and it's more just a technical thing,
Mhm.
is, well, I guess it is part of storytelling because it's the use of language. That people assume that the reviewers reading the grants have the same language that they do, meaning that they use the same words to describe the same things. And again, not all reviewers are going to have the kind of background that the clinicians and the scientists are going to have in writing the grants. So really understanding how to translate your language to something that other people will understand and will know. So like in the yoga world, it's one thing is just like using Sanskrit, like most people don't know it, so you have to
Mhm.
translate it. But it can be as simple as things like, uh, talking about nervous system regulation. Now, in our world, we all know what that means. We know exactly what that means as soon as we say it. But a grant reviewer, if you say nervous system regulation, might not know that. They might not know that that means like being able to consciously relax your body. Like they might. So
Yeah.
it's that idea of like knowing what language you have internally within your scientific team, and then knowing how to translate that out. So that's a huge part where I think a lot of proposals fail, not because they weren't great ideas, but because the reviewers didn't fully understand the ideas because you didn't use the language that they understand.
Yeah, considering the background and knowledge that the people who will be reading over and reviewing your application, definitely important. And really critical. Anyway, I wanted to point out that we are joined by our wonderful friend and colleague, Marita Greenidge. She was having some technical difficulties initially, but I'm really glad to see that she has been able to join. Hi, Marita.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad I could finally make it on. Oh my goodness. That's technology for you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
And you missed the kitten, Marita, but hopefully he'll come back.
Oh, and I wanted to see the kid. It's so cute.
I've got my
Oh
eye
my
out,
God.
though. If he comes back in, I'll grab him.
Yeah,
Please. Oh my gosh.
he was in Catherine's
What's
lap
his
for a
name?
while. Kind of saw him hop off to the side. Anyway, yeah, we've
Oh,
just been chatting about SYR and about the power of storytelling in writing grant applications, which is Catherine will be presenting at SYR on this topic during the pre-conference workshop. Marita, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you have any questions for Catherine as of now, or you want me to carry on?
well, I would say I'll let you carry on and then I'll just jump into the flow because I'm not sure exactly where you are in the flow of things.
No worries. I get it. I completely get it. Um, Catherine, I wanted to ask, what challenges and opportunities do you see for the field of yoga therapy as more research is conducted?
That's a good question because you could look at that question from different angles of like the challenges of yoga research, but I feel like what you're asking is more about the practice of yoga therapy and challenges based around kind of scientific innovation. Is that the what I'm hearing?
Yeah, actually, do you can answer that either way. I was kind of thinking, for the field of yoga therapy as a career, what
Yeah.
challenges and opportunities does research produce? But you could answer that for the research itself if you'd
No,
prefer.
I like the way you phrased it better. Let's go with that one. Um, so, I mean, I think being a yoga therapist is a challenging career, and a very rewarding career, obviously. But when we think about like the scientific innovation around yoga and yoga research and how that translates into practice, which is what my special interest group meeting at the symposium is going to be all about, which is about how do we take what we've learning from research around yoga and its therapeutic benefits and actually apply it into yoga therapy. Um, but so much of yoga, of research, of the Western scientific method is about control. So
Mhm,
it's controlling like what your intervention is. You want it very standardized so that people can repeat it. And again, this scientific method works really well when you're trying to test the effectiveness of a drug, but a holistic modality or I mean, it's a holistic system. It's not just a modality. A holistic system like yoga doesn't fit perfectly into that box of Western research. And so I feel like when we look at like research protocols of like what they did and what they found and all of that, as a yoga therapist, the challenge is to take this sort of rigid container and then apply it flexibly to one-on-one patient care and one-on-one client care
mhm.
or even group care as well. So that's this challenge of like saying, okay, someone did this many repetitions, this long, then they followed it with this asana, with this breathing practice, with this guided meditation, and they got this result. And as yoga therapists, we know it doesn't actually work that way. Like something's going to come in, you're not going to do it, everything as planned. It's not going to go exactly the same, and your outcome is not going to be the same either. So you can't like yoga is not a pill. It's not a pharmaceutical. So you can't treat yoga research in the same way we would treat pharmaceuticals, knowing that even as we conduct research with yoga, we have to do it a little differently. As we apply the research, we have to be much more flexible and do it just thoughtfully and as well.
Do you think I was just wondering, after hearing the way that you explained that, do you think that that is one of yoga's strengths is that yoga therapy takes into consideration the individual and it is really adaptable, really modifiable for the client or patient in a way that pharmaceuticals are not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with pharmaceuticals, really, like the things that you can change about them, you can change the dosage, you can
Yeah.
change the frequency, you can adjust them based on other, you can do two pharmaceuticals together that interact. Like you can do different things to personalize it, but it's nowhere near the potential. And the other thing is that this holistic side of it, of that yoga is not just one thing. Even if you just take one practice, say one breathing technique or one asana, like it's never just one thing. It always affects the whole, and it affects not just you as a whole, but the whole macrocosm around you. So it's like it's the potential is infinite on some level of like where that therapeutic benefit is going to come in and where you're going to see it, but it's also um has so much that is not yet known how to measure around the benefits.
Yeah.
Like that's the tough thing too, is we don't always know how to articulate it and how to measure it, which is more of the challenge of yoga research. But it's so that's like going the opposite direction of like we can look at how do we get research into yoga therapy, but we can also look at how do we get more yoga therapy into research, which is also a challenge.
You know, as you were speaking, Catherine, because you know, I spent a long time.
He's
He's
so cute. Look at this guy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, how is he so cute?
I know.
Jeez. What
He
did you say
made
his
a
name was? What's his name?
Cute.
It is a Professor Taco.
Professor Taco Einstein.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, thank you for
Hi.
coming back to me, Taco Einstein. Oh my gosh, that's a perfect name.
Like, is he the angel on my shoulder or is he the devil? I don't know. I
Oh,
think you're an angel. You're the angel.
so what I was going to ask, because you know, I spent a lot of time in for this pharmaceuticals, and then I was in exercise, you know, personal training and stuff like that. So it's interesting for me to hear this because I'm wondering, like, when you go into like that healthcare setting, because typically when you are marketing a pharmaceutical, you go into the doctor, you show him all these like white papers and stuff like that. Same thing you said, Catherine. You can easily say, okay, this is what happened in these trials. This is how you use it, etc. How does that work with like yoga therapy when you're going in there and you're sitting with the healthcare professional as well, taking into consideration what you said with regard to how we have to approach the research because there are all these nuances in it. What happens in those conversations?
I think that well, what happens in them really depends on how much the people that you're talking to really understand and know yoga. Because sometimes you just have to be really basic and you have to say, like, hey, look, here was this, randomized control trial, or here's a Cochrane review about yoga for lower back pain. And here's what it said. And my fear of that would be like, hey, look, there's a Cochrane review. We found, some small therapeutic benefit for yoga for lower back pain. Like in a Cochrane review for a thing like for a system like yoga, that's actually huge. Like a small effect is like a really big deal in a like rigorous review like that. So my fear would be like that a physician who doesn't know anything about yoga, next they have a person with lower back pain come in and they say, hey, like go to this, like go to yoga, do yoga, and be like, well, what does that even mean? Like, does that mean go take a class at a health club? Does that mean go to, a yoga studio filled with like 20 something bendy people, like 20 something year old bendy people? Like, what does it mean? Like, does it mean like finding someone on YouTube? Like, people don't know. So that's like where a lot of the education piece has to come in of like, not all yoga is the same. When you say yoga, you mean lots of different things. And so really just like that level of education. But if the provider that you're talking to does know more about yoga, I actually usually skip more to the qualitative research because to me, that's where I feel like you find more relevant findings that are more applicable to the general community. So if I'm not trying to sell them on, yes, yoga is effective, yoga is good, I go to that qualitative material because then you can say like, hey, look at how yoga helped these specific people in these ways that they can then articulate in a qualitative study. And that's where that's where I feel like I would love to see more yoga research happening that's mixed methods or that has a
Oh,
qualitative focus to it, because I actually think that that's where a deeper level of translating to clinical care can happen. Especially since yoga is becoming more popular, more people have heard of it, more healthcare providers
mhm.
know a little about it. And when they know a little, they might be more reticent to just blanket um, recommend it to patients because of that very issue of that, you don't want someone just going into any old yoga class and then deciding, oh, yoga was terrible, it hurt, it didn't feel right, I felt uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
um, so I feel like that the qualitative research is really going to be very helpful in guiding healthcare professionals.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, because that makes me kind of broaden my thinking a little bit around that, and it kind of leads me into my next question with, like, why do you think that this symposium, why is having SYR so important for yoga therapists and research? I'm hoping, Kelly, you probably didn't ask. I hope you didn't ask this
No,
question while I was
nope,
gone. But
it's
yeah,
not.
why is it important, and what do you think are the unique aspects of SYR 2024? Like, what are you really excited about? I know that you love research, so
I know. Well, it's like my biggest joke is when people are like, "Oh, are you going to that yoga conference again?" I go, "Yes, it's yoga nerd heaven. That's where I'm going. I'm going
yeah.
to yoga nerd heaven." Like, because it really is like being at Kripalu is like being in heaven. It's just like so beautiful, and it is the perfect time of year to be there. Like one of my favorite things about SIR is like the day that I arrive on Sunday. Like I throw my stuff in my room because I've been like on a long plane and car ride and all the things, and
Mhm.
I like put on my running shoes and I take a run or a hike
Oh,
through
wow.
like the big hill next to the campus, like up and down the mountain. And it's like so refreshing. And just like it feels like it hits the reset button on my body in so many
Yeah.
different ways to just be outdoors, that fresh air, those beautiful leaves, like all of it. It's just awesome. So it's like heaven. And and then this like nerdy yoga community is just so wonderful to be a part of. It's just like you get to nerd out on every aspect of yoga and every aspect of research around yoga, which I know is like not everyone's jam, but I get so excited about it. And like the keynotes that we have this year are like rock stars in yoga research, and it's going to be so fun. And the lineup of speakers as well. It's just like some of my like research crushes are going to be there, and it's like exciting. I feel a little intimidated, but so yeah, it's just like everything you want it to be. And then the other aspects of Kripalu, it's just like the wonderful food, just the ability to like do their yoga dance classes, take the yoga classes in the morning and the afternoons, and take advantage of the general programming that's there, and just the general vibe, and to try not to spend too much money in their gift shop. Like that's the
I mean, that sounds like an amazing experience for everything, the fall in New England atmosphere, the fresh air, amazing food, geeking out among like-minded company, and hearing the latest in yoga research. Catherine, is there anything else that you would like to share with us about your work, or anything else that attendees can expect at SIR 2024? Anything that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I would say the other thing, especially for people who haven't gone before, and for people who are maybe doing it online, who they don't get to go to heaven, but they still get to geek out and get like super nerdy. So, and you get a little taste of heaven that maybe you can come next year in person. Um, but just the ability to kind of be present for sort of the cutting edge of what's happening in yoga research, and the poster presentations too. I know I said that that was like my first entryway
Yeah.
into SIR. The first time I came was with presenting my very first academic poster, and that poster room is just so full of hope. It's so full
Yeah.
of wisdom. And like I love that there are people again like me who are presenting their first poster who I did not know a thing when I did it. Like I did not know anything. And I learned so much in such a warm and like welcoming way to be a learner in the space. Like no one is coming up and grilling anyone about their work. Everyone is coming up with open-hearted curiosity. And to sort of just be in that space where everyone is like supporting each other and congratulating each other on their work and really trying to be there to help and to learn from each other is really just, it's such a beautiful community to be a part of. And I just can't wait. It's going to be so fun. And so I know that for the folks who will be joining us virtually, they won't be able to be present in the poster room, but you can read the abstracts of all of the posters. So you'll have that, and you'll be there. You'll be able to listen in. And I'm not even sure, are we going to have people able to like chat and to put in questions in the chat and engage? I don't know yet if we're going to be able to do that or not during the speakers.
That is a great question. I'm not sure because that Kripalu's tech team they're handling the live stream.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what platform they're going to be using, but it may just be a broadcast. But it would be really great if it were interactive.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. This is like a secret that maybe a lot of researchers don't want people to know, but that like most researchers, you can actually find their contact information. It's not hard. So if someone is speaking and you are there present with them and you don't get a chance to talk to them afterwards, or you are watching it live stream and someone is speaking, you're like, I want to be a part of your work. I think it's interesting, or I have a question about your work. You can usually Google people's academic institutions and find their emails. I shouldn't say that, but I will. They're reachable. They are findable. And this is one of, again, the great things about the yoga community, and just how generous people are. So an example of this, one of our keynotes is Dr. Robert Saper, who is the director, I'm not sure what his official title is, but he is the director of integrative health at Cleveland Clinics. And again, he's been a researcher that I've followed my whole yoga research career. Fantastic work that he's done. And I had the opportunity to be at Cleveland Clinic when I was doing my integrative medicine fellowship. And so I did like a clinical immersion there. And I was like, oh, Rob Saper's there. Like, and I mentioned, people said, why did you want to come? And I said, well, he's there and I really appreciate his yoga research. And they're like, well, let's get you some time to sit down with him. And he was so generous with his time. And he sat down with me for like an hour and a half and let me ask all the questions that I wanted about integrative health and his program and his yoga research. And it was just like, people are like that. They really are in this community. They want to engage, and they really are very just generous, open-hearted people. And I think yoga brings that out in us. And so it, and academia is not always like that. Like in other fields, people are not so nice. So it's really kind of refreshing to be a part of this community and a part of this space where people are just so open-hearted and generous with themselves. So no matter how you engage in SYR, I think you're going to feel that, and you're going to find that is that people are really welcoming that kind of engagement to kind of teach and learn together.
You know, I really love that phrase that you use, Catherine, open-hearted curiosity. I hadn't heard that before, but I think it's just such a beautiful phrasing to discuss like yoga research in this particular space and how we approach everything related to that. Sorry, I missed like the first part of this because I at least it's recorded. I can go back. So,
there you go.
But you know, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank everyone else who was able to log on. If you're wondering who SYR is for, this might have been mentioned before, but researchers, anyone with open-hearted curiosity.
There we go.
That's who should attend. If you are interested, you know, SYR is for you. And I always think research is so important because it gives that scientific evidence and this deeper understanding of these health benefits related to yoga. So I think it plays a very crucial role in just validating the efficacy of yoga. And for me, when I think about it as well, it's like helping to identify practices that are safe for these specific populations, like your persons with chronic diseases, people who are pregnant, if you have physical limitations, all that kind of stuff. So it helps to inform the practice. It helps to guide the yoga therapists, the instructors, to make sure that they can then create safe, effective programs.
I got another kitty. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, they're just coming from like everywhere.
I know.
Oh,
but yes, I mean, and thank you, kitties, for joining us today. My gosh,
It's a treat.
it is a pleasure. And just for
Professor, you wanna
everyone,
say
just
goodbye?
remember.
Say bye.
bye.
Did he literally say bye?
Yes,
Did
he
he
was like,
make a noise and say bye?
bye bye.
Oh, Einstein, you are the best. So for everyone out there, remember you can register at iayt.org/SYR 2024. That's SYR 2024. Or you can go to the Kripalu website as well, but you can navigate from the website I just gave you. And remember, this year you have the opportunity to attend in person. You can be live online, and then after we will have the sessions available on demand so that you can pretty much enjoy at your own pace. So thank you so much for joining us today. You can stay in touch with us by subscribing to our e-newsletter. Even if you're not a member, you can still subscribe and hear and keep abreast of everything that's happening in the yoga therapy space. So we know that your time is precious. So you're glad that you can join us, and really do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.